NBC's chief White House correspondent, Hallie Jackson, joins me now. Hallie, the White House mood right now, what is it? How is it anything but panic? And is there any chance they get anything productive done when all of this is going on?
So let's start with the first part of that, Steph, because I don't know that that panic is necessarily the word. I think it is paranoia. I think it is fiery anger, and I think that some of that is legitimate. People inside the White House really upset that this was published at all. And I think there is also an intense sense of betrayal. In fact, one White House official said that this was a massive betrayal by one of their colleagues. So they're upset about this, right? They're also, I think there are people who are a little bit freaked out by this, given the president's reaction to this. Our reporting from our team, Peter Alexander, Kristen Welker, myself, according to people close to the president, allies of him, is that he was volcanic when this thing came out. He erupted, essentially. He was upset about not just the contents, but the fact that this was published in the paper at all. I was told by one person that the president was particularly irritated by the reference to John McCain in that op-ed, in addition to everything else that you've just laid out, Stephanie. So the president, not happy. There is a real search now for who this person is. You know, listen, the speculation is rampant. The text messages are blowing up on the phone with everybody trying to figure out, is it this person? Is it that person? I'll let Peter handle a little bit of the denials from the officials that we are hearing from this morning, including Mike Pence and Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, who is overseas. But I'll tell you, there's a real question inside the West Wing about, hey, who is this senior administration official? Remember, Steph, that does not mean somebody who works inside the actual White House, right? Although senior advisor Kellyanne Conway acknowledged maybe it is. But it could be somebody in one of the cabinets outside the administration. Senior could be a name that you don't even recognize, or most of our viewers wouldn't even recognize. You probably would.
So
it doesn't necessarily mean it's like a famous big name.
Slow that down for us. When they say senior administration official, our minds immediately go to exactly that. Kellyanne Conway, Mattis, Kelly. Yeah. How many people could we really be talking about here? Lots of them, Stephanie, and they're not all those sort of top marquee, quote unquote, names that we cover all the time here on this network and on others. It could be, you know, the level of assistant to the president spans a wide range of people, from the Domestic Policy Council to different agencies, people who work for these principals, folks that you're mentioning, like, you know, Vice President Pence, Secretary Mattis, whomever it may be. Here's the thing. The New York Times is not delineating what they consider senior. This is something that news organizations determine on a, you know, organization to organization. Depending on your outlet, there may be a different definition of what exactly constitutes senior, right? The Times isn't saying how they've organized or made that distinction, and that is a question that is coming up inside the White House over the last 18 hours since this thing dropped, I can tell you, based on our reporting. What does this really mean? Who could this really be? And there's already whispers of potential backlash if, in fact, if and when this name comes out, Stephanie, it turns out not to be one of those big names. Could there be a backlash against the New York Times about that? That's something that the president's allies are speculating about as well. Oh, heavens. Well, if you're going to be a whistleblower, I don't know. Get out there and blow the whistle. Let's go to NBC's Peter Alexander. Peter, you were at the White House yesterday. You printed a copy of the op-ed, walked it inside, handed it to Bill Shine, and I was blown away to learn this. You were the first to give it to him. He had never seen it.
Yeah, no, Stephanie, that's exactly right. This was remarkable. So we got the heads up that this was out. I printed it, read it, walked upstairs inside the West Wing, went into Bill Shine's office as he invited me in, and I asked him if he had any comment about this op-ed. He said, what? I handed it to him. He said it was the first he had seen it. He was literally reading it in real time in front of me, trying to determine whether this was a White House official or perhaps more broadly a senior administration official. He got up alongside one of Sarah Sanders' deputies. They went into Sarah Sanders' office, where she then said to them, ultimately, Sanders and Bill Shine, as I am told by those familiar with how things played out yesterday, were the ones that broke the news to President Trump yesterday. Gosh. It was about an hour later that then I was the pooler. So that meant I was representing the TV outlets yesterday in the East Room, where the president was scheduled to be hosting a gathering with sheriffs from around the country. He showed up about 33 minutes late to that. At the end of it, I was able to lure him in, ask him about that. He came on over, and this is, well, that's the moment you're seeing on your screen right now, where he pulled out a different article with some highlights that had been given to him touting his own achievements. This is the moment where he referred to the op-ed and, frankly, to the writer as gutless. To give you a sense of what we're hearing from inside the West Wing today, a conversation with a White House official a matter of moments ago, they are pushing back on one of the key sort of allegations inside this anonymous op-ed, that there were early whispers within the cabinet of invoking the 25th Amendment. They dispute that, say it's not true. I said to the official, how would you know you're not a cabinet member? They say, well, based on our conversations with members of the cabinet, we're told that they never discuss that. So that's one point they're trying to make today. Separately, they're pushing back on this idea that this was a high-ranking person within the West Wing, as you and Hallie just discussed there. And frankly, as one of the president's longtime aides, formerly Corey Lewandowski, said earlier today, this could be 12,000 officials that they refer to as a senior administration official.
Hold on a second.
They're trying to dilute the meaning of this.
It could be a lot of people, but 12,000 is not the correct number.
Well, the bottom line, obviously, the White House wants to focus attention on the New York Times. I've asked them whether they reached out to the New York Times, if they complained to them directly, aside from the president's public complaints about this. This official, at least, couldn't tell me if that was the case. But the New York Times has spoken today. We heard from their opinion editor saying that they, for one, will never release the name of this individual. Secondly, saying they're 100% confident that this person is who they say they are, that they interacted with them directly, apparently not in person, but that they had some direct interaction with this individual. But the bottom line is a lot of people will make the judgment for themselves. You have to believe at some point when this name comes out, in a month, a year, or in 10 years, that the Times isn't going to be hanging this on some low-level, mid-level staffer. To be clear, in the op-ed, Stephanie, the person refers to themselves and to this group as Trump appointees. So the accusation from the White House and others that this could be a holdover from the Obama administration, it doesn't hold water.
My goodness. All right, Peter. I mean, it's still, I cannot believe that you were the one who walked in and handed it to Bill Shine. Yeah. Bill Shine and Sarah Sanders then had to break the news to the president. I cannot imagine doing that. And here we are the next day. I've said it before. If I was Sarah Sanders right now, I would still be in bed ordering my third breakfast, waiting to tune into Wendy Williams. Like, I cannot imagine life in the White House today. I want to bring in NBC News political director and moderator of Meet the Press, my dear friend, Charles Todd. Chuck, give me a history lesson. I do not like to say the word unprecedented. In fact, I charge my guests $2 if it's mentioned on this show. But in this case, I cannot think of another word. How unprecedented is this?
It's extraordinary. It's funny you say that. Mark Murray and I this morning when we were putting together First Read, we said we need more than uncharted and unprecedented, right? We were just like charted and precedented. I think we should just start saying it that way. I asked Michael Beschloss that very question yesterday. The closest he came, he says, in the darkest days of Nixon, that the defense secretary back then said, if you get an order to his deputies, you get any orders, double check with Kissinger or me before you enact them from the president. So I guess it was the closest parallel. You could go back when Woodrow Wilson was incapacitated. There was chatter in the worlds of Washington that, that shouldn't be the case. But this is obviously different. This is it is. We are in these uncharted waters, unprecedented territory. You pick the adjective. But I have to tell you, I think a couple of things here. I think it matters who this person is. I think it matters the position that they hold, how high up. It matters what the definition of senior is. And I think the motivation matters a lot to me. Why now? Is this, was this a decision of the New York Times for the why now? Or was this a decision of the op-ed writer for the why now? My understanding of how the New York Times works is that they wouldn't be making their own decision, that this would be, you don't hold news is news, even in the op-ed section of things. But I think for the public's consumption, those two things are important. Look, we have a media credibility issue in this country that we're trying to fix. Most of it is man-made issues, not as much as earned as some would like to believe. But I think that, Times better have this one right. They better have handled this one right. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, well then quickly, let's assume the Times handled it right. Let's assume it is.
And I do. I give them the benefit of the doubt because I give James Bennett the benefit of the doubt.
And then let's assume it is a senior official appointee. What's the goal here? Is Mitch McConnell supposed to do something? Is Paul Ryan? you know, are we supposed to, is someone supposed to stand up and say, hold on, let's hold off on Brett Kavanaugh? What's the goal? Who's supposed to take action?
You're asking the wrong person. I want to ask that same, look, I've heard the calls that say this person should name themselves. I understand the decision to not name. For instance, what if this person is actually got 20 people behind them that wants this written, and this one person said, all right, I'll take the hit, I'll do it, but, you know, we're all going to mislead, you know, let people think that they could have written it. Maybe they're speaking for a group of people. Perhaps this person thought, if I write it anonymously, there'll be more focus on the substance of what was written.
But focus by
versus
whom? Who are they
the
looking
byline
to get action from? People who read the New York Times, they're
the best
already
thing
outraged.
I could see, Stephanie, I would say this: if we read the op-ed, about the closest they come is, it seems to be a primal scream to Republicans in Congress. That's, to me, the intended audience. Now, that said, I don't know why you would pick the New York Times op-ed page to talk to elected Republicans and not say, you know, the Corner and National Review or the Wall Street Journal op-ed page. But it does seem to me they want to talk to elected Republicans on Capitol Hill.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me, or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.